All right, Turcotte is gone today. You guys have minute 67. You should have a new packet. If you don't have a new packet, go get one now. On minute 67, we have what fraction of the total square is shaded? Well, if this one's split in half, so let's split all of them. So there are 8 pieces in all, and only one is shaded, so 1/8. Next, we have 1/4 times 24. 24 divided by 4 is 6, or 1/4 of it is 6. Complete the division table. Well, 18 divided by -2 is 9. So 12 divided by -2 is -6. 18 divided by -3 is -6. 20% of 70. Well, I know 10% of 70 is 7. And that would be 10 and 10 is 20, so 14. Which shape below is a right angle? A. 6. 2 cubed minus 5. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. 8 minus 5 is 3. Right side up A is to an upside down A, as a right side up triangle is to an upside down triangle. At what time did June first start her trip? Looks like it'd be noon. Maybe 12:30. How many miles did Jen ride? She rode 10 miles. At what 2 points did Jen appear to take a break? In here somewhere. And then up here somewhere. So maybe 2:30 and 6:30? Whoops. That should be 2:30. 2:30 and 6:30. Again, if you don't have your new mini packet, go get one. Make sure your name is on it. And you have all of these answers. Next, you guys have your volume packet. Mine's totally blank. Yours should not be blank. But something you may not have done yet is numbered all your pages. So we're going to go through and do that. The first one is 1 on the back. That would be your 2. And then next it says 2. You're ignoring that because this is really page 3. All the way through. I'm going to pause it and number mine as you are numbering yours. Alrighty, I have mine numbered. You should have yours numbered. You should go all the way to 24. So these should already be done. If they're not done, I'm not going to do all the information, but I'm going to remind you that the formula for a cylinder is either base times height. I should have done it up here more. That's okay. Or pi r squared times height. Where base, that is the area of your base. Which is pi r squared. Your radius is half your base, half the diameter, and your height is from top to bottom. It's sometimes also labeled on the side. A cone, there's a couple different ways. You might see it as 1/3 base times height. Again, base is the area of your base, which is pi r squared. You might see it as 1/3 pi r squared times h. These are all the same, or you might see it as pi r squared times h all divided by 3. Multiplying by 1/3 and dividing by 3 are the same thing. You still have your radius. And your height for this one goes from your vertex to the center of your base. You cannot use a side because it is a diagonal. It's not measuring the actual height. You should have already gone through all of these. If they're not done, you might want to find a way to get them done. This was completed yesterday in class. And then I believe you guys are right here. Here is a cylinder and a cone. They have the same base and the same height. Yesterday, you guys watched a video that showed a guy, no, Turcotte performed it, dumping water into the cylinder from the cone to cylinder. And it was 3 cones fit into 1 cylinder. So if we know what the volume of a cone is, 3 of those would fit into a cylinder. So it means you multiply it by 3. If you know the volume of a cylinder and you're trying to find the volume of a cone with the same base and height, you would divide by 3 to get the volume of your cone. What is the volume of each figure? Express your answer in terms of pi. That's where we don't touch pi. We leave it alone. We do all the rest of it, and we leave pi alone. So if we're on our cylinder, it says my diameter is 10. My radius would then be 5. So we have volume equals pi, which we're going to leave alone, r squared, so 5 squared, times my height of 4. Well, 5 squared is 25. 25 times 4 is 100. So the volume, and when you leave something in terms of pi, you leave pi at the end, would be 100 pi. Well, that's our cylinder. To find our cone, we're going to divide it by 3 to find it. So the volume would be 100 divided by 3 pi. Gives you a decimal. It is the same as 33 1/3 pi. So if we take our calculator and we have 100 divided by 3, 33.33333. Goes on forever. When you have this decimal, it is 1/3. Your 3 goes on forever. Next, here is a cone. What is the area of the base in terms of pi? Remember, area of a base was pi r squared. We're going to leave it in terms of pi. So area of the base would be 6 squared times pi. 6 squared is 6 times 6, which is 36 pi. What is the volume of the cone? Well, remember, volume of a cone is pi r squared times height divided by 3. So let's plug in what we know. We know all of this. That we know. We know all of that is 36 pi. And we know the height is 8. And then we are going to divide it by 3. Remember, we are leaving our pi alone. So I'm going to have 36 times 8. 36 times 8. That gives me my top. And then I'm going to do divided by 3. Divided by 3. So our volume would be 96 pi. Next, we have a cone-shaped popcorn cup. Cone-shaped popcorn cup. Has a radius of 5 and a height of 9. How many cubic centimeters of popcorn can the cup hold? Use 3.14 as an approximation for pi. So we have our equation. Volume equals, and we're using 3.14 times my radius squared times my height, all divided by 3. Remember, if it's squared, it's multiplying it by itself. So we have 3.14 times 5 squared. So 5 times 5 times my height of 9. 706.5. Now we need to divide all of this by 3. So our volume would be about 235.5 centimeters cubed. Next page, if you are lost, we should be on page 13. Find the dimensions of the unknown cone. We know all of our formula. If you forgot it, we'll write it here. We have pi r squared times height divided by 3, where all of this is the area of your base. So when it asks for it here, we know what it is. We also know the difference between radius and diameter. If you know your diameter, you divide it by 2 to figure out what your radius is. If you know your radius, you multiply it by 2 to figure out what your diameter is, because your radius is half the length of your diameter. All right, on this first one, we know the radius is 4. The radius is 4. Our diameter would be 8. 4 times 2 is 8. Area of the base is pi r squared. Let's write that right here so we don't forget it. And over here it tells us that it's leaving it in pi. So we're going to leave all of our pi's alone. So we have 4 squared times pi. 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is 16 pi. We know what the height is. It tells me it's 3. And volume of the cone. So we're going to have this times our height. And all of that is divided by 3. And that's going to give us what our volume is. So now I'm going to have 16, because we're going to leave pi alone, times 3. And then we're going to need to divide it by 3. So the volume of that cone will be 16 pi. Next, we know 2 pieces of information, just like the one above us. So 1/3 times 2. We can write right here, 1/3 times 2. I'm going to write it as a fraction, 2 over 1, because it doesn't change its value. Gives us 2/3. So if you weren't sure, it is 2/3. Area of the base is radius squared. So 1/3 squared times pi. 1/3 times 1/3. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 3 is 9. So it equals 1/9 pi. So 1/9 times 6 divided by 3. I don't know if I can do that. Nope. Let me go get a calculator real quick. Alrighty. Calculator. 1/9. 1. This ABC button right there makes it a fraction. 9th times 6 equals 2/3 divided by 3. Our answer would be 2/9 pi. Next, we know what the height is. We know what the area of the base is, so we can find the volume. We have 36 times 1/4. 36 times 1/4. And then all of that is divided by 3. So the area of this one is 3 pi. But we need to figure out what is the area of the, or what is the radius? Well, area of the base is r squared. So that means something times itself, something squared is 36. Square root of 36 is 6, which means my diameter would be 12. This one we only have 2 pieces of information, but because we know our diameter, we are able to find everything else. So the diameter is 20. So my radius divided by 2 is 10. Area of the base is 10 squared times pi. 10 squared is 100, so our area of the base is 100 pi. Okay, now we have 100 times something divided by 3 is 200 pi. We're going to write this one out, and I'm going to write it up here. So when you know what the volume is, so here's my equation. I'm going to plug volume in. I know volume is 200 pi. I know the area of my base is 100 pi. I don't know my height. All this is divided by 3. So something that's the same on both sides that we can take away is we can take away pi. You can do minus pi on each side and they go away. Then we need to figure out how to get rid of everything else. So we have 100 times h divided by 3. What's the opposite of dividing by 3 when solving an equation? Would be to multiply by 3. 200 times 3 is 600, and that equals 100 times h. 100 times what is 600? Well, 100 times 6 would give us 600. Next, we really don't know that much. We know the height and we know the volume of the cone. We can solve for everything else. We're going to use this equation again, and we're going to do something kind of similar, and I'm going to work it out down here. So I know the volume is 64 pi. And I know my equation is pi r squared times height, which I have. 12. Whoops. That's 12. And this is all divided by 3. So again, I have pi on both sides. I can take pi away. Minus pi, minus pi. I didn't write it out because it takes up more space, and there's just a little tiny bit of space. Something else we can do, we can simplify. We have 12 divided by 3. So let's rewrite this. We have 64 equals r squared, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So I now have r squared times 4. The opposite of multiplying by 4 would be to divide by 4 on both sides, which gives me 16 equals r squared. Area of the base is r squared pi. Well, r squared is 16. So that means we know that's 16. And the opposite of squaring something would be to do the square root, which gives us 4 equals r. So now we have 4. 4 times 2 is 8, so now we know the diameter. And I have a tiny bit of space. We can put it in. So we could do this one right here if you wanted, but we're going to skip it for now. That's okay. Next, popcorn deal. Split it in half because you're going to do volume of both of them. We need to figure out which one is the better value. The cone or the cylinder. Make your guess. Which one will it be? So we know the diameters of both and we know the height of both. We want the radius. The radius of our cone, half of 12 is 6, so our radius is 6. Radius of our cylinder, half of 8 is 4. Now we can fill in all of our equations. Volume of a cone. It tells us to use 3.14 for pi. So 3.14 times my radius squared times my height, all divided by 3. For my cylinder, my pi, 3.14 times r squared, so 4 squared times 15. Plug it all in our calculators. 3.14 times 6 squared times 19. 2,147 and 76 hundredths. All of it divided by 3. So we get an approximation of 71592 centimeters cubed for the cone. Sorry, the cylinder. 3.14 times 4 squared times 15. We get volume equals 753.6 centimeters cubed. So the better deal, they're different amounts too. So we need to figure out how much per dollar. So this is for $6.75, and this is for $6.25. So we need to divide it by its value. So we're going to do this one first because it's already in my calculator. So I'm going to divide it by $6.25. That's going to give us our per $1. So you get about 120.576 centimeters cubed per $1. On this side, 715.92, and it is divided by $6.75. So this side, you get about 106.062, and that 2 is repeated, per $1. So you get more popcorn for your $1 on your cylinder. So if you didn't say cylinder, that's okay. It was just a guess of what one you thought you might be the better deal. I believe you did some of these ones. These are leaving it in terms of pi. So that means every single one of your answers is in terms of pi. All of those in terms of pi. Your equation is still volume equals pi r squared times h divided by 3. But we're leaving this alone every single time. So we're going to have 5 squared times 12 divided by 3. 5 squared times 12 divided by 3. So 100 pi. Okay, so this one, 7 squared times 18, and it's 7 because this is 14, which is my diameter, and we only want half, divided by 3. 7 squared times 18, all that divided by 3. 294. I believe Turkov said you did most of these. If you didn't, you should do them now. So like 3 is 3 squared times 7 divided by 3. 4 squared times 9 divided by 3. 6 squared times 14 divided by 3. 3 squared times 5 divided by 3. All of these are the same. On the next page, it says use 3.14 and to round to the nearest tenth. Tenth is 1 decimal place. So we're going to use our equation. Volume equals 3.14 times r squared times height divided by 3. So for this first one, 3.14 times 17 squared, because that's my radius, times 31, all divided by 3. 3.14 times 17 squared times 31, and all of that divided by 3. My first decimal place is a 0, rounding to the nearest, so my 8 makes it a 1. So 9377.1, and it'd be yards cubed. Next one. 3.14 times. This is my diameter. Half of that would be 21 squared times 43, and all of that's divided by 3. 3.14 times 21 squared times 43. All of that divided by 3. So 19847. Nearest tenth would be 9 inches cubed. Same thing. 3.14 times my radius squared times 35, all divided by 3. You should be solving these. I'm going to write out a couple more just to keep it going, and then we'll do the next page. So we're doing the same thing. 3.14 times my radius, which is 24, squared times 43, all divided by 3. Number 5. 3.14 times 16 squared times 33, all divided by 3. Number 6, my radius is 22. So we have 3.14 times 22 squared times 51, all divided by 3. So now you should be in the hang of being able to write it out. 8 has a radius of 20. And number 10, your diameter is 20, so your radius is half of that. Or your diameter is 20, so your radius is half of that, which is 10. So this one we would have 3.14 times 10 squared times the height of 18, all divided by 3. Your next page, more practice. This time, you're still using 3.14. There's already decimals in here, and you're rounding it 2 decimal places. So if we're on this one, same equation, I'll write it out for you. 3.14 times radius squared times height, all divided by 3. So if you need another piece of scratch paper, you can get one. Otherwise, just write small. 3.14 times my radius is 2.5. 2.5 squared times my height is 12 2/3. That's a 3. And 3/10, I mean. All of it divided by 3. So 3.14 times 2.5 squared times 12.3. And all this is divided by 3. 2 decimal places is a 6 followed by a 2, so it stays a 6. 80.46 yards cubed. Try and complete the rest of the 10. All of your equations are the 3.14 times your radius, 7.1, times your height, that one's squared, sorry, 18.3, all divided by 3. Your label is whatever your measurement is, and cubed. Try them on your own, and you will be answering questions as you go.